right, I feel like it's been a while since we've had this last guest on the podcast. It's UConn Athletic Director David Benedict. So, David, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, it's good to be with you, Jared.
Yeah, fall sports off to a great start across the board. So, you've got to be in a pretty good mood.
Yeah, it's always fun when you get the fall started off in a good way, and we're playing soccer right now as we speak against Xavier, top 21 team or top 25 team. So hopefully we'll get a good result on the road from our women's soccer program.
Yeah, I know the college sports landscape has probably been as active and crazy as it's been in a while. So it's always a good time to have you on to talk about all that's going on right now. I'll start now. I'll just throw this one out there. I'm not sure how much you can speak to it, but when you first took this job in 2016, did you ever think you'd hear UConn and Pac-12 in the same sentence?
No, no, I can honestly say that never crossed my mind. And look, these are all fun conversations to have, and I know the public and the media likes to write a bunch of stuff. And look, it's my job to make sure that we're involved in any and all conversations that potentially would make sense for our institution. But we're very happy in the Big East, and look forward to continue to winning championships, both in conference and nationally. And we're excited about what the future holds with football. We're off to a really good start this season, and I really believe NIL and the future of revenue sharing offers UConn a unique proposition to really level the playing field.
Yeah, the NIL landscape in particular, I feel like has just been changing since the day it became something that schools, collectives, and everyone could participate in. How have you seen this space evolve since it first broke onto the scene to where it is right now?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good question. It's constantly evolving, Jared, and because I think there's really a lack of structure in a lot of ways,
Mhm.
both from an NCAA standpoint. I think one of the challenges that we all have institutionally, and you're starting to see some of these things happen around the country with players opting out of the rest of their seasons,
Yeah.
preserving red shirts, and I'm not. I don't want to necessarily point to a specific situation, but we're in a point right now where collectives are really the only ones that are allowed, or potential businesses are really only allowed to directly work with student athletes to um, create opportunities for them. And so, here you are as a potential coach of a program, and they're saying that someone promised them something that hasn't been delivered on, and so it really makes it very difficult in a lot of different ways. But the bottom line is, there's a demand at this point in time to evolve as an enterprise, which I think is really positive.
Mhm.
I think we just got to find a structure in which everyone is benefiting, and I don't think we found that yet.
Yeah. How do you weigh? Because I mean, I think it was Tennessee we saw last week implemented. I think it's a talent fee as part of their ticket package that goes to, offsetting some of the costs of bringing in players. How do you weigh that balance of, hey, we ask fans for a lot in college sports, whether it's just ticket prices on its own, donations, and sometimes fans feel like they take the brunt of some of those things. So how do you go about trying to balance it and weigh that out as you look at this situation going forward?
Well, I certainly appreciate all of our fans and everything that our fans do. And look, everyone has a different level of um, ability to support, the program, and whether that's because of what they're capable of financially, or whether it's their interest level in our programs. Everyone has a different level of commitment, and so we appreciate whether it's coming out to one game or buying season tickets or making contributions to the Husky Athletic Fund, or now making contributions to Bleeding Blue for good. We appreciate anything and everything everyone does. However, we all know in the grand scheme of things, if you want to compete at the highest level and you want to have success, resources are an important part of it. And so, the fact that Tennessee made the decision to, qualify part of an increase or all of an increase as a talent fee, I can appreciate and respect that. It's showing transparency as to what you plan on doing with the money. And, I think you're going to see other people increase tickets, whether or not they call it a talent fee or whether they're just increasing tickets because they have to derive more revenue to support the future of revenue sharing. I'm not sure that one way is better than the other, but certainly there's transparency in that.
Yeah, no, I think I read, I think it was almost 90% of season ticket holders renewed and went through with that, even seeing the talent fee. So I think it's an interesting way of things being put out there now. Being right here in the heart of the fall, obviously football on the forefront of a lot of people's minds. UConn's now been an independent for a few years now. Now that you've kind of gotten a few years of independence under your belt and getting to experience it, how does it compare to what you thought it might have been going into it?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think about independence necessarily, just like when we were in the American, I don't know that the thought process was about the conference necessarily day to day. We've got to focus on ourselves. We got to focus on what we're doing every day to support the coaches and the student athletes and continuing to invest in that program. So I'm not sure that the affiliation with a conference or lack thereof is really what we're focused on at this point in time. Maybe at some point in time that becomes more of a focus. However, what I would tell you is that from a scheduling standpoint, we continue to feel good about how we're scheduling the opportunities we have. I believe that we were successful in building out the types of schedules that we thought we were going to be able to when we made this initial decision. So we're excited about that piece, and the unique part of this year where we have 7 home games and 6 games in a row, I think provides a great opportunity not only for our team but for our fans to really begin to support this program and watch us build some momentum this year.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Obviously, the big win over FAU last week. You got Buffalo coming up and they continue to rack up some wins there. It continues to build that momentum and turn people out at the rent. Um,
Yeah, it's look, coaches, whether it's Coach Moore or any of our other coaches, you're only as good as your last game,
yeah,
and in football especially, so much of how you perform on Saturday, albeit there are games tonight, I think, and Friday, but you know how you practice during the week has a huge impact on how you perform on Saturday. And so, the challenge for the staff is to get these kids coached up on who the next opponent is and to really lock into the details and get a good work weekend. And then hopefully, the game takes care of itself. But we're certainly excited from what we've seen. We had a very competitive game against Duke, although that's not necessarily the goal, just to be competitive.
mhm.
I think there are signs here that are very positive. And obviously, last week was, something that I really hadn't seen in my time at UConn, where we really dominated a game from beginning to end against, a Florida team that obviously has access to a recruiting base that is pretty significant.
Yeah. When you look at NIL, like we were talking about earlier, especially from a football perspective, I know you've spoken in the past about being able to increase the NIL for football, and looking at the increase you got this year and looking not only at that, but saying, hey, how can we make that even more for next year? It seems like football in particular is a sport where the NIL can go a long way. And I think you're seeing that play out this year. Is that something you've seen in terms of, just going around this college landscape from an NIL perspective in terms of football?
Well, realistically, Jared, we're not competing against the Power Four conferences.
Mhm.
Just like before NIL, it was difficult to get kids that had the opportunity to play at that level to come to UConn because we're not in one of those conferences. I think that's been one of the biggest challenges since the breakup of the Big East is that recruiting is a little bit more difficult in the Northeast because there's not as many Division One football players that are coming out of New England or the Northeast, and so your conference affiliation or the level that you compete at is very important. The huge opportunity for us is that now it's not only about a scholarship and your institution and the facilities and the coaches, it's also about the opportunities you can create through NIL or potentially in the future revenue sharing. And I think that is something that we are going to be very successful at. I think we demonstrated over the last couple of years where we've did a 10x increase over the first year, and we're going to continue to push the envelope as it relates to creating the resources to put our coaches in a place where they can successfully not just recruit starters but build depth.
Yeah, moving on from football, it'll taking a look at things from a basketball and then just some Olympic sports perspectives. I think probably one of the bigger pieces of news this offseason was the TV deal that the Big East was able to get into going forward. Your thoughts on the deal that they were able to bring in some new partners to the table as well.
Yeah, listen, I think it's going to be interesting to have new TV partners. I think obviously there's I don't want to say some stress with it, but we have had an unbelievable relationship with SNY on the women's side,
Mhm.
and at this point in time, and I there's no reason to believe that anything's going to change, but our partnership unfortunately will end with SNY after this coming season, and so that's a little stressful for our fans, I'm sure, because everyone's become very accustomed to knowing that SNY is pretty much the home of the Huskies, and they've
Right.
done a tremendous job in pre and post game, support of that program. And so, while we will, miss our friends at SNY after this year, there's new media partners that are very excited to have our content, have access to it, and I'm sure we'll invest in an appropriate way to cover, both our men's and women's teams. But Fox is a great partner. I'm sure a lot of our games are going to continue to be on the Fox platforms, and we continue to be excited about that partnership.
Football season is here, and you know what that means. Tailgates. Make your next game day spread unforgettable with Martin Rosel's Meats. For over 96 years, they've been crafting the highest quality hot dogs, kielbasa, and sausages using fresh, never frozen meats sourced right here in the US. Whether you're grilling up at home or at the stadium, Martin Rosel's has the flavor that will make your tailgate the talk of the season. Visit martinroselsinc.com to find their products near you and to taste the tradition. Other big piece of off-season news around the basketball programs are some renovations coming to Gampel. What's the latest you could tell us on how those are going?
Yeah, I walked through this morning and I was thinking to myself, I don't pay attention to every tweet that gets sent my way or that I'm tagged on because it probably would be unhealthy for me. But I do my best to scan these things, and where there is good feedback, I certainly try to respond and react. But one of the things that I know there has been lots of feedback on is people don't think the arena inside the Gampel or the pavilion is lit. There's not enough light. What I can tell you is I don't think there's going to be any issues with lighting inside the arena because the video boards are going to be quite large, in addition to the fact that we're investing in some lighting. And so the place is going to be lit, literally.
Literally and
But
figuratively, I like that.
yeah, it's gonna be fun. Everyone likes to see themselves on the video board. Everyone likes to be able to to easily look at stats and different type of information during the game. And we're going to have so much space and opportunity to do that, in addition to being able to show highlights and replays and all those different types of things, that I think it's going to add and enhance everyone's experience. And it's going to allow us to do things that we've never been able to do before in Gampel.
Yeah. When you look at Gampel from a renovations perspective, longer term into the future, I know there's been talks about, concourse expansion, things like that. How do you see that playing out over the next kind of several years here?
Yeah, so we were very fortunate that the state committed to giving us $100 million for Gampel over the next 5 years. I'm not sure exactly when that money is going to be dispersed to us, but we're in the process of getting more specific into the details as it relates to what our plans will be and where we're going to really focus our attention. As large of a number as that sounds, that amount of money will not go extremely far, especially if you start doing, significant construction that involves structural, issues. And so we're going to try to address as many things as we can for both the student athlete and fans. Obviously, we know we have concourse issues. We know that we have point of sale issues. And so these are all things that we're going to do our best to address. We're replacing the lower level seating the following year, so there'll be more information coming out about that. But we're going to do everything we can from a fan amenity standpoint and from a student athlete experience standpoint to make it the best we possibly can. But when we start talking about massive structural changes, I would say there will be less of that than maybe what people may think.
I know you talked a little while ago that you don't necessarily see everything that comes into your mentions, as you probably shouldn't. But the big talk the past couple of days has been, with the schedule coming out, the split between games in Excel and Gampel. Are you able to talk at all about the process in how those schedules come to be?
Yeah, I can do my best, Jared. I think, I'm not trying to cop out or make an
Yeah,
excuse. It's a complicated formula. You have, first of all, we don't control the schedule that comes out from a conference standpoint. So we're sent a schedule with opponents and dates, and we do our best to work with the Excel Center, and they try to be as supportive as they possibly can. But understand, they're one of their job is to book events at the Excel Center, and we need them to, so that place can be better from a financial standpoint. But they don't do those things. They're doing those things a year in advance, and so they have to book events in certain times and windows that we don't know whether we're going to have a home game or not. So we work with them to try to block some dates where we think we may get some games, but it always doesn't work out. And so, we do our best and have done our best to try to balance things this year. Obviously, from a fan perspective, there's obviously a point of view that the splits this year are not balanced, and that's fair and reasonable for people to suggest that. I think it's always interesting how the season turns out, and everyone doesn't necessarily finish up the way that people think they're going to, but nonetheless, like, I understand and appreciate where people are coming from, and I'm sure you could go back over the last decade and say that there was years where things were heavily weighted toward Excel, but we understand it, we appreciate it, and we're going to continue to do our best to keep a balanced schedule when at all possible.
Yeah, I know.
But some of the other things that we think about, Jared, is not trying to put games down at Excel when or I should say the opposite. We try to put games at Excel when our students are off
Right.
campus. And so there's lots of different factors that we try to balance out. And yeah, unfortunately, this year wasn't necessarily the best split in terms of balance as as the fans look at it. But in my mind, hey, it's a great opportunity to go be undefeated, excel this year. It's still going to be a fun environment, and as you know, there's not many easy nights in the Big East, so all these games are important, and we're obviously going to need our fans to come out and support our team.
Yeah, I know from just seeing what's been put out there throughout the season, it doesn't seem like it's going to be an easy ticket to get, regardless of where it is, just given season ticket sales and things like that. Would you say this is probably the most excitement you've seen around these programs, both men's and women's, in your time here?
Well, certainly from a ticket standpoint, we're almost sold out on the women's side, and the men's side is virtually sold out at both venues. So I have not seen it like that since I've been here. So we're very fortunate and very thankful to our fans, and obviously that's a residual of success. The women's program has been pretty level as it relates to the success. But I think people are obviously excited about that roster. A lot of kids returning from injuries. Certainly, this team has the ability to return to the Final Four and compete for a championship. And on the men's side, I think what's really exciting about this group is we've got some young guys that will be returning from last year that have a chance to step in and be major contributors, and then we've got some new people that we're expecting big things from too. So both the teams are in a great place, and we're excited about the beginning of the season.
Yeah. Do you ever look back on when you maybe early part of your tenure here at UConn when you were maybe in a Gampel that was maybe half full for a basketball game, and now you look and see how far things have gone, and it's happened relatively quickly.
Yeah, it didn't feel quickly. There was some long days, and yeah, Jared, I think there was some points in time where I was surprised only because you come to a place like UConn that has the tradition it did, 4 national championships when I got here, and we weren't. We were probably half full in 2016 when I got here, rolling into 2017, and so. I think that spoke to the fact that the American Athletic Conference, good, bad, or indifferent, it just didn't resonate with our fan base, and so we understood that, and that's one of the reasons why we made the decision we did to go back to the Big East, and I think there's a lot of things that have contributed to our success over the past several years. Obviously, the coaching staff, Coach Hurley and the rest of them are the biggest contributors. But certainly returning to the Big East and establishing or reestablishing some of our rivalries with our old Big East foes has certainly been good for everything. And it's certainly something that I feel very good about. And I'm very happy to see the energy, the excitement, the passion, the enthusiasm for our men's and women's programs. And yeah, I love going to our games when they're sold out.
I'll wrap with this one for you. I know a lot of people who listen and watch tend to focus on men's, women's basketball, football. Give me something about one of the fall sports that maybe people aren't quite as in tune with that they should be following.
Well, I'll start with men's soccer. We're back in the top 25 the first time since 2019. And so I think Coach Bondi, in his third season, has really retooled the team, and we're a much more offensive minded soccer club. And so if you're familiar with our past teams, I think I saw a stat the other day. This is the first time that we've averaged over 2 goals per game I'm not sure how long it's been. So I think it's gonna provide some for exciting games, and I think that this team is capable of going out on any night and winning every game. And so it's great to see them back. Women's soccer again has got off to a great start, and then volleyball. I mean, volleyball's undefeated now. Listen, they're going to get a little bit of a wake up call because they're on the road to Marquette, Creighton, and they're 2 of the best teams in the country. They're not just good, they're 2 of the best teams in the country. And so it'll be a great test for that program. But I think, with all of the programs that are having success, and you look at the investments that we made in facilities,
Yeah.
and obviously identifying the right coaches, because facilities don't win games,
Right.
teams and coaches do, but it does help, and I think that the investments we've made are beginning to show the benefit in how our teams are competing, which means that we're recruiting better and we're retaining our student athletes and developing them into a place where we can be competitive with the best. So it's really exciting. And have you been out to the volleyball center yet?
No, I haven't. It's on my list to get to this fall.
Come
So
on, man. You got to get out there. It's really a phenomenal transformation. I don't know if you were there or ever attended a hockey
no.
match when it was the Freitas Center, but it's it's spectacular. The kids are extremely proud of it, and it's a fun environment. They do some pretty cool stuff in there from an in-game experience standpoint, and the fans are really fun to join and support our team. So I'd encourage you and
Yeah.
all of your other listeners to come out and watch your volleyball team play. They're very good.
Yeah, and I know volleyball is one of those sports nationally, as you look at it, is really taken off over the past couple of years too. So exciting to see UConn rising to that level of where they've been undefeated to this point this year.
Yeah, Ellen Herman's doing a great job, and again, couldn't be happier for that group of kids.
Well, I really appreciate you taking some time during this busy fall sports season. Hopefully, we'll have you back on soon. Maybe before you get out to Maui. Maybe that'll be the time to come back on.
That sounds great. Well, hey, I look forward to seeing you soon. Hopefully, I'll see you this Saturday.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Thanks, Jared.